with some of you who are graduating and going on to work at these wonderful places, Amazon and Microsoft and Dish. And we've really established here a very professional level of being able to communicate and present in the professional world. Believe me, this is the quality that if you can maintain this, you're going to do terrific. You've been there for a long time, and so you should feel good about what you've been able to accomplish.
Can I just add, I've been here almost 7 years, and this is the most amazing preparedness that I've ever seen, and the professionalism is really great. I would say
while we're at it, we could give Elizabeth a round of applause for that lunch. Okay, so the last presentation here is feasibility study of utilizing, it's got the longest title, feasibility study of utilizing 4G LTE signals in combination with unmanned aerial vehicles for the purpose of search and rescue of avalanche victims. Presenting will be Victor, William, Vinitha, and Sung Yen.
Good afternoon. I'm Bill. On behalf of the team, Vinitha, Sung Yen, Vic, and our two advisors, Dr. Gates and Mr. Little, welcome to the 4G LTE Search and Rescue Brief. This is the agenda we're going to follow for this afternoon. Our problem statement's rather simple. An average recovery from an avalanche is about 45 minutes. If you're rescuing the first 15 minutes, you have a 93% survival rate. If you're rescued in 30 minutes, your chances drop down to 33%. So bottom line, rescue time currently exceeds survival time. We are trying to shorten the rescue time. So our question is, what is the feasibility of using 4G LTE to assist in search and rescue of buried avalanche victims? And we broke this down in 3 categories: detection, communication, and device access. And while there's plenty of research out there on search and rescue, research is unique because there is no published research on using 4G LTE for search and rescue operations. We made several assumptions when we started this project. Number one, obviously there's an avalanche and somebody's buried. Number two is the buried person has a cell phone and they didn't lose it in the avalanche. They still have it on them. They have a locator beacon app which turns their cell phone into a 4G LTE beacon. First responders have been notified, search and rescue is initiated. First responders have a signal locating device, and there is 4G LTE service in the area. Our project timeline, we kicked off in January. We did some initial testing at Flatiron's Crossing Mall on March 19th, which led up to our Keystone event on the 28th of March when we went to Copper Mountain. We took a couple of devices, buried them at various depths in the snow to test signal propagation through snow. And I will hand off to Vinitha to discuss our findings.
Thank you, Bill. One of the major findings of our presentation for experimentation at Copper Mountain was that the 4G LTE signal suffers very less path loss even at 7 feet deep snow. As we have already established that a person under 6 feet deep snow has minimal chances of survival, using LTE communication architecture is justified here. This is a small, concise table of our recordings that we did on Copper Mountain. As you can see, when we move from 7 feet deep to about 3 to 1 feet, the peak transmit power and also the average transmit power peaks up almost about 20 dB higher. The snow density at 7 feet deep snow was about 4 times of what you see on the surface. We measured all the recordings using a Verizon 4G LTE device which was operating at 775 MHz frequency. In order to calculate all the parameters for the LTE communications, we started off with the Android app. This Android app was running on a 4G 4.1.1 Jelly Bean device, and we were using vendor specific methods which will give you parameters such as RSSI, signal level, signal ratio, SNR, and also receive power in dBm. These changes in the parameters can be used to trigger different events in your application. The only minimum requirement for our application is API minimum level minimum 9 and also data of 10 megabytes. Sorry. The operation of the application is very simple. Someone has to initially, the first version, someone has to initially start the application. Once the application is started, the recordings are done locally on the device, and the changes in these LTE parameters triggers to log the data locally on the device with the timestamps. We have also programmed the application to send out email every 30 seconds, thus leveraging the idea that it can shoot up the transmit power of the device. Based on the recordings, we proposed several propagation model, which Sanyan will give now.
Thank you, Rita. So we can see from here, the path loss in the snow is greater than in the air. So we have the radiated formula here. And this is our formulas for the propagation model. We can discuss more after the presentation. And this is our presentation model. We built it at several frequencies. And our frequency focus is at 775, which is a frequency we received from Verizon in the Copper Mountain. And we map our test result with our simulation together. As you can see, and we have mentioned in the findings, the snow doesn't cause too much path loss in our model. And Victor will talk some more about our recommendation.
Thanks, Sunyan. So while we did figure out what we sought out to do, and that's test the feasibility of 4G LTE to have it as a beacon device instead of having to go buy one at REI. We do have future research that needs to be done in this area. First of all, to test the area, we had like a 200 meter by 200 meter area, so it was all line of sight. Really, that has to be expanded. The second thing is to refine the app. So while the app wasn't the focus of this research, 4G LTE was, we feel that the app needs to have to do two things. It has to get the triangulation data better, which through our research we figured out how to do. You mentioned earlier, Professor DeMeo, the triangulation method through the cell towers. So while we didn't test that, and we didn't test where you would have a fall and then stillness, we didn't test that yet either. So we feel that those two things are the main things, and also test it through Flash, although we assume it will go through people. And the most important thing of our next version of the app is that it needs to send a CC email to Dr. Reed every single time. It's like 2,000 emails there, so that's our recommendations. So some acknowledgments. First of all, I want to acknowledge Dr. Harvey Gates. Without his guidance and his leadership throughout this process, it would have been a failure. We had industry helping us. So Leptron Industrial Helicopters that you see right here, these devices, we thank them. They couldn't make it today, but we thank them very much. Forge Aero LLC and Nick Little and his company, our industry advisor. Thank you very much, sir. Also, within the university, we'd like to thank the aerospace division. They couldn't be here, Professor Frew, Professor Argro, and his folks in the Recub range. Also, the Kate Studios, Jen Calloway. She produced this video that you're about to watch.
We're doing our studies at the University of Colorado with the Interdisciplinary Telecommunications Program. This is our capstone project. Basically, we started off with research methods and started developing this, and now we're actually out here doing the field research for the capstone semester. Here we go, heli's coming. The scenario is we have a skier who's been skiing. He's got this app on his cell phone. He goes down in an avalanche. And in theory, this application on his phone starts shooting off an email message every 30 seconds. So I can kind of give a blip saying, here I am, I'm over here.
It might be just a project towards our degree completion, but if this project really is successful, then we might be able to save lives,
This technology could potentially lead to being safer, safer to the backcountry, safer to ski area. I'm all for that. Anything that we can do to help our industry be safer, our employees be safer, our guests be safer, we're happy to be a part of that.
We have 2 Army officers, we have 2 foreign students, and so it's just diversity in action. We are out here, you know, enjoying ourselves on a beautiful day at Copper Mountain Ski Resort. So, I mean, what else can you, what else can you want, right?
Yeah, it's a big success today. It's a nice project and probably the coolest ever.
One last thank you to Hagen Lyle, who you saw in the video, and the folks at Copper Mountain Ski Resort. They were just so helpful. We'd like to thank them very much. They couldn't make it here. So at that juncture, any questions?
So, questions from the faculty? I'm glad you didn't do a demo of the...
Come on, I was waiting for one.
I'm going under the table.
So you made an assumption that LTE service was available in the area where the avalanche occurred?
Very large assumption, yes.
Yes. Very.
For this first iteration.
Okay. Do you have any statistics on how many avalanche-prone areas, or especially where people are, have LTE service? Are you talking about main downhill ski areas, but no backcountry, I guess is the question?
We want to get to backcountry, sir, and we want to get to bring a LTE presence out there eventually. So this first iteration, that was out of scope. We just wanted to test the feasibility if LTE can do it, and we quantitatively proved that in our research. However, yeah, that's a big problem. We have to be able to bring out a cell on wheels or something that can attach to a larger version of this and actually bring it so you can triangulate and find the downhill skier. Professor Santos.
So in your measurement, I know obviously you're looking for propagation loss on snow and then on the air. Did you measure any data on the point itself as it got buried and probably assume that it was far away from the cell tower and try to increase its power level? When you run any measurements on the point itself, you see will just try to compensate for that loss in the sun and just, you know, increase its signal strength?
Yeah, the first version of application what we developed was calculating the LTE parameters that it is receiving from the base station, and the inbuilt LTE method is built in such a way that whenever there is a change in those parameters, in any of the parameters that we are monitoring, the device will locally log the data with the timestamp. So we know that at this timestamp there was a change in SNR or a RSSI level on the device itself.
Just quickly, and I'm slow, I apologize. Tell me what you're going to do to locate, again, what the alternatives are.
So as of right now, the current state of the art is you can go to REI or one of these companies and get a 457 kilohertz beacon, about $300. You carry that on you. If me and you are skiing together, I have one and you have one. If you go down, I put mine in receive mode, and then I have to find one. Basically, it's my job to save your life. But we're trying to see if in the future we could use the smartphone.
But no, but how do you, I understand
So
that.
if you
but
get the signal, how do you locate it?
How do you locate the smartphone?
Right.
Okay, I'm buried in the snow, I've turned the beacon on or whatever, and on the LTE, how do you find me then?
So it would send a signal back to first responders and give them an exact lat long of where you are.
But that
along
would
with
require
elevation.
GPS, which is now, did you look at the propagation of GPS?
Yes, we did. La Chapelle in 2006 did a study of University of Calgary, and it does propagate down to 3 meters deep in snow densities up to 7%.
The next idea, in case we don't use GPS, is to use the LTE infrastructure itself and use the technologies called as OTTA, which will basically calculate the time difference between your signal arrival and
That would
departure.
require multiple
Yeah, it would require at least I think 3 base stations for your measurement.
Is that likely in one of these areas?
So right now, our initial findings were, we assumed that we had pretty good LTE coverage in that area. The next version would be to attach a microcell on one of the UAVs and fly around over the grid. And we would propose a regular pattern on which the UAV would fly and then take up data points from that and then do the triangulation method to locate the device.
It's called uplink time delay of arrival.
No,
UTDO.
yeah, I've worked with it quite a bit.
Okay.
I just wasn't clear quite
The next iteration of test. Yeah, this was just the feasibility of of which we did, and then next iteration, OTD or AUT.
We're out of time here, so. For all the students, excellent job. We are